comeback has been aborted. The MAF experiment is over before it even began. Guys, I'm going to explain what's been going on with my running. I'm also going to have a chat about the Melbourne Marathon and the Ballot. Was it the Ballot that the Melbourne Marathon needed? Stick around, guys. I'm going to give you my thoughts on that in this video. This was to have been the second week of 8 weeks running to the MAF method, but unfortunately things haven't gone to plan. If you remember in the last video, guys, I mentioned that I've been dealing with just this little bit of a calf niggle, and I was expecting to go and see my physio. Fortunately, I got in nice and early in the week, and while the outcome wasn't a catastrophe, it wasn't good news either. Physio seems to think that I've got some very deep tightness within the calf, which is coming from an issue to do with my glutes. My glutes are incredibly tight, they are incredibly weak, and she seems to think that this is causing the issue in the lower leg. Mine at the moment are like 2 bricks, and they're just not working at all. That's putting way too much pressure elsewhere in the leg, especially on that left side, because I'm also dealing with the chronic knee issue, the discomfort that I've been running with for about 18 months to 2 years, because that lovely little cushioning that sits in the knee joint, that's all gone, and I've got bone on bone. So that's what I'm dealing with there, and that's changed my running gait. It's just a combination of all these factors that have led to this issue with the calf. I think another thing that doesn't help with my glutes too is the fact that my 9 to 5 job, if you can call it that, even though it's really 3 to 11, I'm sitting at a desk for, you know, pretty much the majority of those 8 hours. I'm sure that's contributing to the tightness in the glutes. This past week, while I have been working, I've been making a concerted effort to get up and walk around, just, you know, stretch the body out a little bit so that I'm not sitting in that sort of one position for most of those 8 hours. It's all these little things that hopefully will get me back running sooner rather than later. I had some dry needling done in the calf. It felt good for a couple of days. Physio said, look, don't run for a couple of days, just give it a bit of a rest. But on about the 3rd or 4th day, it just started to feel tight again, and I've just made the decision that it's pointless to try and run through it. Let's just take a complete rest. Let's get the calf right before I actually go back and do any running. That's what I've decided to do. So I've abandoned the MAF. I've abandoned any type of running until I can at least walk without this discomfort in the calf. Did a 5-kilometre walk with Trish today. It's Sunday. Well, it was tight all the way through, but it got really tight towards the end of that. I want to be able to at least walk 5 kilometres without any discomfort in that calf before I get back to running. Physio has given me quite a number of exercises to strengthen the glute and hopefully take away a little bit of pressure that the calf has been absorbing because of the ineffectiveness, I guess you could say, of the glute. I want to thank everyone who's taken the time to comment on these videos with me running to the MAF and my 116 beats per minute MAF number. Some really interesting comments in there, and some food for thought for me when I do get back to running. A lot of people mentioned that the 116 beats per minute was way too low. Some people were concerned about the biomechanics and running differently because I'd be running so slow. Others were questioning my motives. Was I training for walking or training for running? Because running to 116 beats per minute was meaning that I was doing a lot of walking because the heart rate was shooting up well over that 116 beats per minute. So I want to thank everyone who did take the time to do that, because it does mean a lot to me, and like I said, it's given me some food for thought for what I do when I get back to running. So guys, keep the comments coming. I'm going to keep these videos coming even though I won't be doing any running, so hang around and ride out this little calf niggle with me. So I've got to continue with the exercises, do some trigger point in my glutes. Got to try and rake up all that rubbish in there, get them nice and supple, get them working properly. Got a bit of sorting out to do in their lower body, guys, before I can get back to running. Even just walking now, it's a little bit tight, and I know as soon as I was to start running again, it would just tighten up quite noticeably. I just got to take my medicine, whether it takes a week, whether it takes 2 weeks, whether it takes a month or longer. So we'll just continue with the exercises, continue with the, you know, the massaging, the trigger point in the glute, lower leg. Just a matter of being patient now until it comes right. Fingers crossed it won't be too long and I can get back to some running, but for now I've just got to cool my jets. The Melbourne Marathon is using a ballot system for entries in its 2026 event. Good or bad? I'll give you my thoughts on that decision in a bit. The ballot opened this week and will remain open until November 25. Now, the introduction of the ballot system hasn't pleased everyone, judging by the many comments on social media in the past week from angry runners, most notably those aspiring Spartans. To achieve Spartan status at Melbourne, you must have completed 10 marathons. The outcry from those runners who have completed 4, 5 or even 6 Melbourne marathons is understandable when you take into account organisers' decision to provide a special entry clause for those runners who have completed 7 or more marathons. My wife fits into this category, having completed 7 marathons. She has applied under this special clause and has received a link for direct entry to 2026. I can understand people's frustration if they fall short of the 7 marathons and thus have to enter through the general ballot. The organisers are rewarding those loyal runners who have supported the marathon over a long period of time. For what it's worth, I'm okay with the ballot system for Melbourne. I think it's the fairest way for everyone under the current course setup and starting times on race day. Think back 12 months ago when entries opened for the 2025 Melbourne Marathon. It was a debacle. People weren't able to access the website because it either froze or was too busy to access, and the event sold out in record time. Not everyone had an equal chance to enter. The ballot makes it a lot fairer. Everyone gets an opportunity to enter, and then it's down to luck if you get in. From what I've been able to gather, 86% of entries will go into the general ballot. There will be around 13,900 entries available. The breakdown for the other spots: 4% for charity runners and qualifiers, 2% for corporate packages, and 1% for travel packages, Spartans, volunteers and sponsors. What's surprising with Melbourne is that the half marathon entries are also going into the ballot, with entries being taken at the same time as the marathon. Let's hope organisers have a good algorithm in place so that the same runner doesn't get entered into both the marathon and the half marathon. I think ballots are just something we will have to get used to here in Australia. Sure, we have a ballot in place for the Sydney Marathon, now a World Marathon Major, but we haven't seen a ballot for a capital city marathon in the past. But Melbourne is not alone. I noticed this week the Dublin Marathon in Ireland opened entries for 2026 this week, and it too is using a ballot system for the first time. I expect this to become the norm rather than the exception with some major running festivals in Australia. The running boom shows no signs of slowing down. Gold Coast Marathon entries open soon, and it remains to be seen if it continues with the first in, best dressed entry system or follows Melbourne's lead and goes with a ballot. We'll know soon enough with entries opening on December 2. At this stage there's no mention of the Gold Coast using a ballot system. From all their social media posts, it does look like that they will just have a first in, best dressed entry system for 2026, but that remains to be seen whether that stays the course in future years. But back to Melbourne. From what I can gather, there will be around 13,900 plus spots available in the marathon and 13,500 in the half marathon. I think from those numbers your chances are good. The majority will get in, but there will be a number left disappointed. But it won't be like the London Marathon, with more than 1 million entering the ballot, with only 40-odd thousand places up for grabs. But I'm not sure Melbourne looks as attractive to international runners, with the entry for overseas athletes $60 more than Aussie runners at $295. That's a fair hike. Maybe organisers are trying to discourage international runners from entering. The Melbourne Marathon has been plagued by issues over the years, not the least the congestion between the marathon and half marathon runners on St Kilda Road, or the 10-kilometre course crossing the marathon course inside of the MCG that I raised in a video a few weeks back. It would be fantastic if they could increase numbers for the marathon and the half marathon, but that comes with great expense for organisers. There's the extra time and dollars for road closures and paying more for traffic management, police and emergency services, etc. if you were to stagger the start times or bring in wave starts to keep the course open longer. And that's not to mention shutting down roads and transport in a major capital city for an increased amount of time. At what point does it become too expensive to hold the event? While the organisers have copped a bit from runners and been reluctant to change over the years, we still have to respect that they need to turn a profit. If they don't, the event disappears from our running calendar and no one wins. The Melbourne Marathon is one of Australia's great road running events and hopefully will be for many years to come. The ballot, while it won't suit everyone, is here to stay for the foreseeable future. Runners just have to accept it and keep their fingers crossed they score a place. And finally guys, in this video I need to clarify an error I made in last week's video. I said that the Ballarat Marathon and Harry's King of the Hill were held for the first time in 2025. Well, that's incorrect. Those events have been held previously, so I apologise for any confusion, and I thank Colin for pointing out my mistake.